What's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Scam! That's right, we're back at it on our month-long journey throughout the nightmares. Now remember, this month I'm looking at 31 foreign horror films, none of which I've ever seen before. Yesterday you may remember that I took a look at the original Ringu film back in 1998, and today I'm taking a look at the discarded sequel, Spiral. Now Spiral's called different things in different places. We call it Spiral, other people call it The Spiral, some other people call it Raisin, I'm not entirely sure. But we call it Spiral. The thing to know about this movie specifically is that the movie came out literally the same exact day as Ringu. They play it back to back in theaters. But while Ringu became more of a success, this had people avoiding it at all costs. But why? It was more or less made by the same people, but audiences hated it enough to want to forget about it all around. So eventually Ringu 2 was made, which served as more of an alternate and more preferred sequel to the original film. What was so wrong with this one though that made them do that? Let's get cracking. Spiral ultimately follows a pathologist that performs an autopsy on one of the characters that died in the first Ring film, specifically the ex-husband of the first movie's main character. If you remember, this was the guy with psychic abilities. The pathologist soon learns about the cursed videotape and wants to figure out from a medical and scientific basis what's happening to all these people. And it turns out a tumor might actually be the culprit. This is something that he believes until he himself watches the video. Okay, so first of all, do I think that this movie deserves all the hate that it's gotten throughout the years? I don't know about hate, but I do think that ignoring or even removing and reversing this film from the continuity was the right move. It unfortunately makes some choices in the film that more or less minimalizes the effect of the first, to put it lightly, but to be more blunt, I'd even say it makes the first film feel pointless all around in some ways. I'll explain more, but in order to do that, I'm gonna have to spoil some plot points in this film. So if you don't want to get spoiled, go ahead, skip this review, but keep in mind, this movie is nothing. It's not connected to the rest of the Ring series in any way, shape, or form because of the missteps that it ultimately took. But let's go on with the review. First, let me explain what about the film I enjoy. I like the fact that it digs deeper into the lore of the Ring and how not only the videotape could kill you, but also spreading the news about it in the first place, because the main character of the first film was apparently keeping a journal or diary about her experiences while investigating the videotape, and people no longer needed to watch the tape to die. All they needed to do was read that diary. That was pretty cool. I also really liked taking the time to try to give it more of a scientific explanation. Is it a curse, or are people simply running into a really deadly and contagious virus? There's stuff here that I liked a lot, but the further the film goes, the weirder it gets, and I mean really, really weird. The third act of the movie alone was too weird for me. It stopped being a horror drama and it stepped way too far into the deep end of sci-fi. My main complaint though came way earlier, when it discovered that the main characters of that first that survived, meaning the main girl and her kid, they died anyway. Whether through the Ring or through a car crash, it doesn't really seem to make any difference. Because the entire first movie, it was all about rooting for this character to find a way to stop this thing. And having seen that first film, as well as our Americanized version, I know that she did it. She found a way to stop the curse, and because of that, she saved herself and her kid. But in this movie, it minimalizes on that entire plot because they're killed off right away. From what I understand, that's probably the basis of why this film's ignored. Ringu 2, once again, focuses on that main character and her son as if this movie never happened. And I'm looking forward to watching that now, for sure. But I can only imagine people watching Ringu and Spiral back to back when they were released on the same day. I'm surprised that people still ended up liking Ringu, because if it was me, I would have seen both movies as one big thing with an intermission in the middle, essentially. The third act of Spiral though, talk about spiraling out. It's all sci-fi. There's a weird subplot about Sadako, the Japanese version of Samara, trying to be reborn into the world. And through genetic things like DNA testing, in vitro fertilization, and modified hormone treatment to keep people a certain age quicker. Oh my god, what? There is a sad story in the movie about this main character being depressed and how he's okay destroying the tapes and being cursed himself because he welcomes death. makes him a little bit of a hero in some ways. So there's something important there, something deep, something good. I liked that. But then he's like, I'm too scared to die. Let's clone Sadako and my kid that I lost. And at the end of the movie, they're all like, we're going to publish that journal, infect everybody on the planet so that they're forced to also clone Sadako, and there's going to be hundreds, potentially thousands of reborn Sadakos roaming around the Earth, and it'll be a long time before peace returns. What on God's green earth are you snorting? What is that? Again, there's elements of this movie that I like. I really do. Digging deeper into the lore and finding out what it all means is a very good idea. That's exactly what I would have done as well as a writer. But if it means this cloning sci-fi garbage, absolutely not. This is not a horror film, by the way, so it doesn't really fit my interpreting the scares model. It's more of a medical and psychological thriller at best, but it's more sci-fi than anything. Overall, it felt as if they changed out writers for the film because the overall feeling that it started out with is very different than how it ended with. But who knows, let's go ahead and talk about my final score for Spiral, which was a C-letter grade, final overall score of 61%, 61 out of 100 possible stars. It mostly did what it sought out to do, but in doing so, it also pooped on the first film quite a bit, and I often felt like it didn't even know what it wanted to be on its own, especially during the third act. The first and second act still had a decent mystery, and I did like the change in perspective from being a paranormal horror drama to being a little bit more logical. That was cool, and in a way, it was kind of needed. But yeah, it goes off the rails. Guys, have you seen Spiral? And if you have, please let me know what you thought about it in the comment section down below. Do you think they made the right choice in taking this out of the continuity of the Ring films to make Ringu 2? Or do you actually prefer this over Ringu 2? I haven't seen that yet. I will soon. But please let me know. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next film for interpreting the scares. And until then, peace out.